Chapter 17, Stars and the Solar System. Children, have you visited your grandparents' village during summer break? And then after dinner, when you go to the roof of the house, no, it was a clear, cloudless night if you see there. So it is very surprising to see a large number of bright stars in the sky, children. Yes, and it's a very beautiful scene that you can ever see in the city side. Why is this, children? See, it's mainly due to the bright light and the smoke and dust in the city side, no? The sky is not clearly visible. It's rarely clear, children. So the night sky watching, no, can be a fascinating experience at a place where there are no bright lights and the atmosphere is clear. So now if you see the sky on a dark, clear night, you can see the entire sky dotted with countless stars, some bright and some not so bright. So observe them carefully, children. Do all of them appear to twinkle? Do you find any star-like object which does not twinkle? The objects which do not twinkle are planets, children. So the moon is the brightest object in the night sky. And similarly, the stars, the planets, the moon, and many other objects in the sky, no, they are called the celestial objects. Yes, are all celestial objects similar? Let us find out, children. The first topic we are going to study is the moon. So before that, let us do an activity, children. Observe the moon continuously for several nights, preferably from one full moon to the next. And you need to make a sketch of the moon every night in your notebook, children, and note from the day of the full moon. So also note every day the part of the sky, east or west, in which the moon is seen, children. Yes, and then look at this picture, phases of the moon. So is there a change in the shape of the moon every day? Are there days when the shape of the moon appears to be perfectly round? Are there days when the moon cannot be seen at all, even if the sky is clear? So the day on which the whole disk of the moon is visible is known as the full moon day. Yes, children. So therefore, every night the size of the bright part of the moon appears to become thinner and thinner. On the 15th day of the moon, no, is not visible. The moon is not visible at all. So this day is known as the new moon day. That what we call it as Amavasa. So the next day only a small portion of the moon appears in the sky. This is known as the crescent moon. So then again the moon grows larger every day, children. On the 15th day again, once again, if you get we get a full view of the moon. So that is known as the full moon day. So the various shapes of the bright part of the moon as seen during a month are called the phases of the moon, children. So here is an activity you need to draw that. Yes, children. Let us try to understand why phases of the moon occur. You have studied in your chapter 16 that the moon does not produce its own light, whereas the sun and other stars do, no? So we see the moon because the sunlight falling on it gets reflected towards us. So therefore, we see only that part of the moon from which the light of the sun is reflected towards us, children. Yes, are you able to understand the concepts in this? The moon appears different at different positions in its orbit. Now you need to do an activity again, children. Take a big ball or a picture, paint half of it white and half black in color, children. Go out into the playground with two of your friends. Draw a circle of radius about 2 meters on the ground, children. Then you divide the circle into 8 equal parts as given here. Yes, stand at the center of the circle. Ask a friend to hold the ball at different positions of the circle, children. Ask her to keep the white portion of the ball always towards the sun. If you are performing this activity in the morning, then the white portion of the ball should be kept towards the east. If the activity is being performed in the afternoon, then the white portion of the ball should be kept towards the west. So in each case, the line dividing the white and the black portions is kept vertical. Yes, and standing at the center of the circle, observe the visible white portion of the ball while your friend stands at the points on the circle marked earlier, children. Draw the shape of the white portion as you see. Compare your drawings with the different phases of the moon as shown in the figure 17.5, children. Look at this picture, children, which shows the positions of the moon in its orbits and its corresponding phases. Remember that the moon revolves around the earth along with the moon revolve around the sun, children. Can you now guess the relative positions of the sun, moon, and the earth on the day of the full moon and on the day of the new moon? Now sketch these positions in your notebook, children. In which part of the sky would you look for the full moon? And the size of the illuminated part of the moon visible from the earth, no, it increases each day after new moon day, children. Yes, after the full moon day, the sunlit part of the moon visible from the earth decreases in size every day. Yes, so this we are all experiencing, isn't it? The moon completes one rotation on its axis as it completes one revolution around the earth, children. Yes, the moon's surface. Now we are going to study about the surface of the moon. So the moon is a fascinating object for poets and storytellers, isn't it, children? But when astronauts landed on the moon, no, they found that the moon's surface is dusty and barren. There are many craters of different sizes. It also has a large number of steep and high mountains. Yes, and some of these are as high as the highest mountains on the earth, children. Yes, and if you see, no, the moon has no atmosphere. It has no water also. So, can any life exist on the moon, children? And on, did you know that on July 21, 1969 Indian time, the American astronaut no, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon for the first time, followed by the Edwin Aldrin children. So look at this, an astronaut on the moon. Is it clear, children? The next topic is the stars, children. What other objects do you see in the night sky? There's a large number of stars in the sky. When you observe carefully on a dark night, no, and from a place away from a big city, are all the stars equally bright? Are they of the same color? In fact, stars emit light on their own. The sun is also a star. So why does it appear so large compared to other stars? Which appears bigger, a football placed near you or a football placed at a distance of 100-meter, children? The stars are millions of times farther away than the sun. Therefore, the stars appear to us like points, children. Yes. Now, if you see, no, in fact, the stars are present in the sky during the daytime also. However, they are not visible then because of the bright sunlight. Yes, children. Observe some prominent star or a group of stars in the sky for about 2 hours or more. What do you find? Do you find any change in the positions of the stars in the sky? You will find that the stars appear to move from east to west. A star which rises in the east in the evening sets in the west in the early morning, children. So, why do stars appear to move from east to west? Let us find out with an activity. In this activity, stand in the center of a big room and start rotating, children. In which direction will the objects move in the room appear to move? Do you see them moving in the direction opposite to your motion? Enter your observation in the classwork, children. Now take an umbrella and open it, children. Make about 10 to 15 stars out of the white paper. Paste one star at the position of the central rod of the umbrella and others at different places on the cloth near the end of each spoke. Yes. Now rotate the umbrella by holding its central rod in your hand. Observe the stars on the umbrella. Is there any star which does not appear to move, children? Where is the star located, ma? If there were a star located where the axis of rotation of the earth meets the sky, could this star also be stationary, children? So there is actually a star, the pole star, so which is situated in the direction of the earth's axis. So it does not appear to move. Yes, children? Look at the picture 17.10, children. The pole star lies close to the axis of the rotation of earth, children. The next topic we are going to learn is the constellations. So do you know what is constellations, children? Look at the sky for some time. Can you see some stars forming groups with shapes like those given in the figure 17.11? The stars forming a group that has a recognizable shape is called a constellation. Yes, so constellations were devised by ancient people to be able to recognize stars in the sky, children. So the shapes of the constellations resemble objects familiar to those people. So you can easily identify some constellations in the night sky. For this, you should know how a particular constellation looks like and where to look for it in the night sky. So one of the most famous constellations which you can see during the summer time, in the early part of the night, it's Ursa Major. Yes, it is given in the figure 17.11a. It is also known as the Big Dipper, the Great Bear, or the Saptarishi. Yes, so there are seven prominent stars in this constellation. So it appears like a big ladle or a question mark, children. So there are three stars in the handle of the ladle and four in its bowl, as given here in figure 17.12. So the dipper used for drinking water in ancient times. And similarly, you can also do an activity, observe the constellation for a few hours. Do you find any change in its shape or do you find any change in its position? You will observe that the shape of the constellation remains the same. So you will also find that the constellation appears to move in the sky from east to west, children. And this is the picture which shows the pole star and also the Ursa Major, children. Yes. So this is the pole star and you should observe the pole star for some time. So note that it does not move at all as the other stars drift from east to west. Yes, and then another activity we are going to do is during the summer night, observe Ursa Major 3 to 4 times at an interval of 2 to 3 hours, children. Also locate the pole star each time. Does this appear to move from east to west? Does it appear to revolve around the pole star? Compare your observation with those in the figure 17.14, children. In fact, all the stars appear to revolve around the pole star. See here? So the pole star is not visible from the southern hemisphere, children. It's an important note. Some of the northern constellations like Ursa Major may also not be visible from some points in the southern hemisphere. Yes, children. And then Orion is another well-known constellation that can be seen during winter in the late evenings, children. It is one of the most magnificent constellations in the sky. It also has 7 or 8 bright stars, children. The figure 17.11b is known as the Orion. It is also called as the Hunter. Yes, children. The three middle stars represent the belt of the hunter, and the four bright stars appear to be arranged in the form of a quadrilateral, children. Yes, and then the star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky, is located close to the Orion. To locate the Sirius, imagine a straight line passing through the three middle stars of Orion, children, and you look along this line towards the east. So this line will lead you to a very bright star. It is the Sirius. Understood, children? And then the Cassiopeia is another prominent constellation in the northern sky, children. It is visible during winter in the early part of the night. It looks like a distorted letter W or M, children. Yes, the solar system. So we all know already about the solar system. Yes, children. The sun and the celestial bodies which revolve around it form the solar system. And what does it consist? It consists of large number of bodies such as planets, comets, asteroids, and meteors. Isn't it? The gravitational attraction between the sun and these objects keeps them revolving around it. Yes? Do you know about the gravitational force, which we studied about in the force and pressure lesson? So the Earth, as you know, also revolves around the sun. It is a member of the solar system and it is also a planet. Yes, children? And there are seven other planets that revolve around the sun. What are they? They are the eight planets in their order of distance from the sun. Can you name them? What are they? It is the Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Isn't it? So this picture shows a schematic view of the solar system. Yes, children? Now let us know about some members of the solar family, children. The sun. So we all know it is the nearest star from us and it is continuously emitting huge amounts of heat and light. Yes, and we also know that it is the source of almost all energy on the earth. In fact, the sun is the main source of heat and light for all the planets, isn't it? Then we come to know about the planets. The planets look like stars, children, but they do not have their own light. Hmm? They merely reflect the sunlight that falls on them. Yes, children, can you distinguish between planets and stars? The simplest method of identifying planets from stars is that stars twinkle, whereas the planets do not. Also, the planets keep changing their positions with respect to the stars, children. And then a planet has a definite path in which it revolves around the sun. So that path is known as orbit. And then the time taken by a planet to complete one revolution is called its period of revolution. Understood? And the period of revolution increases as the distance of the planet increases from the sun, children. Yes, the nearest planet is Mercury. Its period of the revolution will be less when compared to the last, the Neptune. It's very far away from the sun, no? Its period of revolution will increases. So, like that, depending upon the distance from the sun and the planet, the period of revolution varies, children. Now, let us perform an activity. Go out into the playground with the four or five of your friends. No, draw four circles of radius 1 meter, 1.8 meter, 2.5 meter, and 3.8 meter, all having a common center, as given in the figure 17.18. Children, ask one of your friends to stand in the center and represent the sun. You other four friends no may represent Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Ask your friends to move around the sun in anti-clockwise direction in their own orbits. Okay, do they collide with one another? You find out by doing this activity and enter your observation, children, in your classwork. So, besides revolving around the sun, no, a planet also rotates on its own axis like a top. Now let us see that activity in the next slide. As I told you that besides revolving around the sun, a planet also rotates on its own axis like a top, children. So that the time taken by a planet to complete one rotation is called its period of rotation. And some planets are known to have moons, satellites revolving around them. So any celestial body revolving around another celestial body is called its satellite. And the earth revolves around the sun. Does it make earth a satellite of the sun? Find out and tell me, children. Now let us learn all the planets in the solar system one by one, children. The Earth. The Earth can be said to be a satellite of the Sun. So though generally we call it a planet of the Sun, we use the term satellite for the bodies revolving around planets, children. Moon is a satellite of the Earth, children. Yes, and there are many man-made satellites revolving around the Earth. No, these are called the artificial satellites. Now we are going to study about the Mercury. So the Mercury is nothing but Buddh. So the planet Mercury is very nearest to the Sun and is very smallest in size. And since it is very close to the Sun, no, it's very difficult to observe it as most of the time, no, it is hidden in the glare of the Sun, children. And it can be observed just before sunrise or just after sunset near the horizon. So it is visible only at places where trees or buildings do not obstruct the view of the horizon. And Mercury has no satellite of its own, children. And the second planet is the Venus, that's known as the Shukra. It's Earth's nearest planetary neighbor, we can say, and it is the brightest in the night sky, children. Sometimes Venus appears in the eastern sky before sunrise. Sometimes it appears in the western sky just after sunset. So therefore it is often called morning or evening star. Yes, and it is not a star actually. And try to locate Venus in the night sky, children, if possible. And then find out from your newspapers or from any other magazines the time when Venus is visible in the sky. Okay, you can easily recognize Venus by its brightness. Remember that Venus cannot be seen very high in the sky. You must try to observe Venus either 1 to 3 hours before sunrise or 1 to 3 hours after sunset. Yes, and it also has no moon or satellite of its own, children, like the Mercury. And rotation of Venus on its axis is somewhat unusual. So it rotates from east to west while the Earth rotates from west to east, children. Does it mean that no Venus, the sun would rise in the west and set in the east? So if you get a chance, try to observe Venus through a telescope. You will observe that the Venus shows faces just like the moon. And we are going to see the Earth again. It is the only planet in the solar system on which life is known to exist. So some special environmental conditions are responsible for the existence and continuation of life on the Earth, children. And these just include the right distance from the sun so that it has the right temperature range, also the presence of water and suitable atmosphere and a blanket of ozone, everything. And from space, no, the earth appears blue green due to the reflection of the light from the water and land mass on its surface, children. So the axis of rotation of the earth is not perpendicular to the plane of its orbit. The tilt is responsible for the change of seasons on the earth, we can say. So the earth has only one moon, children. Yes, and the next come the Mars. So the Mars, no, is the next planet. The first outside the orbit of the Earth is Mars, children. So it appears slightly reddish, and therefore it is called also known as the red planet. It has small natural satellites in its, children. And the next is known as the largest planet of the solar system. That is the Jupiter. We can say that Brihaspati. It is so large that about 1,300 Earths can be placed inside this giant planet. Okay, the mass of Jupiter is about 318 times that of our Earth, children. So it rotates very rapidly on its axis. Yes, and we can also say it is a large. It has a large number of satellites also. It also has faint rings around it, so you can easily recognize Jupiter as it appears quite bright in the sky. If you observe it now with the help of a telescope, you can also see four of its large moons as given in the figure 17.22 in your textbook. Jupiter and its four large moons, they are the satellites. Yes, and next planet is the Saturn. Beyond the Jupiter is Saturn as appears yellowish color, children. So what makes it unique in the solar system is its beautiful rings. So these rings are not visible with the naked eye. You can observe them with a small telescope. So it also has a large number of satellites. One interesting thing about the Saturn is that it is the least dense among all the planets. So its density is less than that of water, children. And finally, we are going to learn about the Uranus and Neptune. So these are the outermost planet of the solar system, we can say, and they can be seen only with the help of the large telescope. Like Venus, no, Uranus also rotates from east to west. The most important features of Uranus is that it has highly tilted rotational axis. You can see that picture in your textbook 17.24. As a result, know what happens in its orbital motion, no, it appears to roll on its side. And the first four planets, the Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, no, are much nearer to the Sun than the other four planets. So they are called the inner planets. The inner planets have very few moons. You can say the planets outside the orbit of Mars, namely Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are much farther off than the inner planets. They are called the outer planets. So they have ring system around them. So the outer planets have large number of moons. We can say, children. Yes, is that clear about the solar system? Some other members of the solar system. So there are also other bodies which revolve around the sun. They are also the members of the solar system. Let us learn about some of them. The first thing is asteroids. There is a large gap in between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter, no? So this gap is occupied by a large number of small objects that revolve around the sun. So these are called the asteroids. They can be seen only through large telescopes, children. So look at the asteroid belt here. And then the comets, they are also the members of our solar system. And they also revolve around the sun in highly elliptical orbits, children. Okay, so their period of revolution around the sun is usually very long. A comet appears generally as a bright head with a long tail. The length of the tail grows in size as it approaches the sun. And the tail of a comet, no, is always directed away from the sun, children. Look at the figure 17.26. Yes, a different position of a comet. Yes, and many comets now are known to appear periodically. One such comet is Halley's comet, which appears after nearly every 76 years, children. It was last seen in 1986. Can you tell when Halley's comet will be visible again? So then meteors and the meteorites. So at night when the sky is clear and the moon is not there, you may sometimes see the bright streaks of light in the sky, children. Let me explain the next slide. These are commonly known as shooting stars. Although they are not stars, they are called the meteors. So a meteor is usually a small object that occasionally enters the Earth's atmosphere. So at that time it has a very high speed, children. So the friction due to the atmosphere heats it up, it glows and evaporates quickly. So that is why the bright streak lasts for a very short time, children. So some meteors are very large so that they can reach the Earth before they evaporate completely. So the body that reaches the Earth is called a meteorite. The meteorites help scientists in investigating the nature of the material from which the solar system was formed, children. Yes, and the next is we are going to see about the artificial satellites. And you must have heard that there are a number of artificial satellites which are orbiting the Earth. You might wonder how artificial satellites are different from the natural satellites. The artificial satellites are man made, they are launched from the Earth. They revolve around the Earth much closer than the Earth's natural satellite, the Moon, children. So, India has built and launched several artificial satellites. So, which was the first Indian satellite, children? It was the Aryabhatta. Some other Indian satellites are INSAT, IRS, Kalpana 1, EduSat, etc. You can see the picture 17.28 in your textbook. Artificial satellites have many other practical uses, that is applications we can see. So what for what purpose we are using the satellites? In order to forecast the weather, transmitting the television and radio signals like that, isn't it? And they are also used for telecommunication and remote sensing, children. Understood, children? So hope you would have understood all the concepts in today's class. So far you would have understood all the concepts in this lesson. Now it is recap session. In this lesson, we have learned about the different phases of moon. Yes, and we also studied about the stars are the celestial bodies that emit light of their own. And our sun is also a star, isn't it? And it's very convenient to express the distance of the stars in the light years. And how do the stars move, children? They appear to move from the east to west. And we studied about the pole star, which appears to be stationary, and because it is situated close to the direction of the axis of rotation of the Earth. And we studied that group of stars that forms the constellations, and they form different shapes. And not only that, we studied about the solar system, which consists of 8 planets. Not only the solar system has the planet, it also has the asteroids, comets, and meteors. And what is a satellite? A body revolving around another object, another body is known as a satellite. And Earth has its own natural satellite. What is that? It is the moon, children. And some planets also have the satellites on their own. And we studied that Venus is the brightest planet in the night sky. And it is the morning and the evening star we studied now. And which is the largest planet? That is the Jupiter. And we studied about the artificial satellites which revolve around the Earth, and they are much closer to the moon. So, artificial satellites, for what purpose we use them? For weather forecasting, and also for communication, and also for the remote sensing. Yes, so hope you would have understood all the concepts in this lesson, children.